Yo, Lloyd, Ruhl, aka MegaBlitzz. In today's video, we're going to be looking at all the Day 2 decks from Indianapolis Regionals and comparing it to the meta prediction that I had done before Indianapolis, before I had left. So I'm really excited to get into that. Starting us off here with our first place list, we got Dialga V-Star. Now, I had Dialga V-Star in tier 2.5. But I feel like everybody's kind of figured out how to play this deck now with the heavy 4 count of Super Rod, heavy 4 Professor's Research, heavy 4 Iono, to not have to be as considerate with how many energies you're putting in the discard pile, because you can just Super Rod them back in, and then try to hit as many energies you can off of your Metal Maker. I will say, I'll put this deck in like the bottom of tier 1.5. A lot of people had played it to Indianapolis. A good chunk of them made Day 2 as well. But it's just one of those things where Andrew Hedrick played a lot of Chien-Pao towards his Day 2 ending, and Chien-Pao has a horrible time into Dialga. So I am not a super big believer, but I am on board with it being a real deck. Going into our next deck here, we got Chien-Pao EX playing with the Iron Hands here. I think Iron Bundle is a fantastic card in this deck as well. Something else I thought was kind of interesting was only one Earthen Vessel. A lot of people I thought were playing 2 Earthen Vessel because my Chien-Pao list also has 2 Earthen Vessel in it. But there's a lot of draw support in this deck with the Industrious Decisors and the Cyphermania's Code Breaking, your Concealed Cards, your Iridas, and all that stuff. So being able to find that one Earthen Vessel to be able to get that electric energy isn't super difficult. I put Chien-Pao in tier 1. I still think that's really true. I think it is a tier 1 deck. A lot of people played Chien-Pao. It takes a great time into Charizard and things like that. Third place here, we got Lost Zone Toolbox with Roaring Moon and Iron Hands and Raikou and Hoopa and all these other cards. I put this deck in tier 1.5. I still think that's true. I think it is a tier 1.5 deck. I think it's at the top of tier 1.5. The thing with this deck is it's really difficult to get wins with this kind of deck in a best of 3 50-minute format. If we had like 60 minutes best of 3, which is what I think Pokemon should be doing, is 60 minutes best of 3, that's just me. I think it would have a great time. A lot of the times you are able to win game 1 and then sometimes you lose game 2, or you don't have a chance to finish game 2 because game 1 goes long or something like that. I just feel like if we had a little bit more time, I think Lost Zone Toolbox wouldn't as tie as often as it does. So if we put it in a position where it has more time, I think it quickly becomes a tier 1 deck. However, with the time limit and the stuff we have, I gotta put it in like tier 1, 1.5. I want to put it in tier 1, but I gotta keep it in tier 1.5, unfortunately. Pidgeot Control with the Wigglytuff. Now, All Out Blitzel, I'm pretty sure, is the one that innovated this entire Wigglytuff Control deck, per se. And this deck is really cool, being able to attack with Wigglytuff and Pidgeot if need be. Radiant Charizard as well. You got the Chi-Yu for milling. You got the Luxray for the Fang Snipe, Hand Disruption. You got Cloth for the counterattacking pincer attack. You got Rotom and Lumineon. You have the Snorlax for the block outlet as well. You got Mawile for Tempting Trap, Mimikyu for the safeguard ability, Cleffa for the free retreat and the grasping draw. And then all these one-up supporters, things like Iono and Sharon's Care, Misfortune Sisters, Boss, Team Yell's Cheer, and, you know, just Lost Vacuum, one copy of Hero's Cape. I think Hero's Cape's a great card for this deck. Defiance Vest, Rescue Board, Forest Sealstone, just really a true control deck, tons of one-ups, and I'm really excited to actually give this deck a shot. I really think that control is a very interesting way to play Pokemon. I've never played a control deck in Pokemon before, but I really think it could be fun. So I put this in tier 1. I still think that's true. I think Pidgeot Control with or without Wigglytuff is still a tier 1 deck. I think it's a fantastic deck. It takes a great matchup into Charizard. You have a lot of good matchups into other things. And being like a toolboxy type deck, you at least have outs to most things, which feels really good. So 4th place here, we got 4 out of the 8 decks in top 8 being Chien-Pao. And then we got our 1 Charizard deck, which I'm so grateful that Charizard didn't win. But of course it is Charizard with the one line of Bidoof and Barrel here. But not playing the Mist Energy, opting to play maybe an extra supporter or something, or playing maybe an extra Pokemon or whatever. I think 2 Charmeleon is what he had put in there because they were more about Technical Machine De-Evolution possibly. But I had Charizard in S tier, and I'm going to put it at the very top of tier 1. I think Charizard is a great deck. I think it's a good deck. I think it's probably still best deck in format, but I don't think it's like S tier. I think it kind of got put in its place at Indianapolis and kind of got pushed down a little bit lower on that ladder here. Got another Chimpow, another Pidgeot Control. Everyone, a lot of big name players were playing the Wigglytuff variant, so that was really cool. We got some more Lost Zone Toolbox. We got our first Lost Tina. Now, I put Lost Tina in Tier 1. I gotta put this thing at the top of Tier 1.5 now. It's still a good deck. It's still a great deck. It's just, you have a really tough time into certain matchups still, and especially into like Lugia. If you can't find Temple of Sinnoh, they're more than likely going to end up beating you. My round 4 opponent played 2 Temple of Sinnoh in their deck, and it basically won them the game at that point because they were able to like Temple Impact and then Temple Requiem, and I was like, yep, because it's just what it was. So if you end up not having Temple against something like Lugia, you kind of just lose, and it feels really bad. But you also have a great matchup into things like Charizard EX with that Iron Leaves, and then of course, you know, being able to Requiem it as well. On top of that, the early game kind of pressure with Cramorant, late game Sableye if you ever need it. Radiant Greninja is also a great one prize attacker, but I gotta put it in Tier 1.5 here. Keep scrolling down through. We got our first Lugia deck. This one playing Arven and Thornton. I think Thornton is a really cool card to put in this deck, especially because it says choose a basic Pokemon in your discard pile, switch with one of your basic Pokemon in play. So if you have like a Lumineon, they've already Luminous signed, you don't need to collapse it. You can just Thornton and switch it, which I thought was really cool. So Lumineon, Luminous sign, you know, find Thornton and then be like, all right, Thornton, swap it into my like Mincino, evolve into Cincino, jam some energies onto it and let it rip. I thought it was really cool. Maximum Belt, also a really interesting A spec to be playing in Lugia. We're going to look at a lot of the Lugia decks in day 2 because a lot of them were very different in how they were played, and I think it's really cool. But I put Lugia in Tier 1.5. I still think that's true. The problem that Lugia has is its worst enemy is itself. It's going to brick, it's going to be clunky, you're going to have awkward games, and that's just what it is, unfortunately. We got our first Arceus deck here with Arc Hand Control with like Flutter Mane and things like that. We got the Eries and the Grabbers and Heavy Judge, Heavy Iono. So 2 Judge, 3 Iono. We got Roseanne's Back. I think it's a really great card. Technical Machine De-Evolution in here. Defiance Band to make it so it does a little more damage. Hero's Cape to make that Arceus just really, really bulky. I put Arc Hand Control in Tier 2. I still think it's in Tier 2. I don't think it's going to move anywhere. Another Pidgeot Control. We got our first Arctina deck played by Josh Frink here with Arctina. I got 2/2 line, 2 Iron Leaves to be able to deal with that Charizard heavy 6 kind of grass energy as well. I love the 3 copies of Lost City in the deck. Heavy Judge, Heavy Iono, you know, heavy boss for the deck here. I put Arctina in Tier 1.5. I still think that's true. I think it's the best deck for Arc variants right now. I think it's the best one you can be playing. So really cool for Arctina there. We got our first Gardevoir deck as well. Kind of something similar we've already been seeing. But the one card that really stands out to me in this Gardevoir deck here is going to be Klefki. And I think Klefki is a great card next to Flutter Mane as well, because Flutter Mane is a pretty good attacker with that Hex Hurl attack 90 for 2 damage counters on your opponent's switch Pokemon any way you like. And then Midnight Fluttering, as long as Pokemon is your active spot, your opponent's active Pokemon has no abilities except for Midnight Fluttering. Klefki does something very similar with Mischievous Lock. As long as Pokemon's in the active spot, basic Pokemon in play have no abilities except for Mischievous Lock. But its attack Joust, I think, is really cool. For 1 energy, Joust for 10 damage. Before doing damage, discard all Pokemon tools from your opponent's active Pokemon. So it's great into control variants. It's great into something like where you, let's say if you're playing against Charizard, you can just boss up and put up their Rotom, Joust, discard the Forest Steel Stone before they even get a chance to use it. They can't instant charge or anything like that, which feels really good. And you can kind of trap it there for a turn. I saw someone do that one time online playing Klefki in the deck. But I put Gardevoir in Tier 1.5. I think it's like right at the bottom of Tier 1.5. I'm actually going to put it below Dialga. Just because I think Gardevoir is never going to be able to live up to the thing it once was. But I still think it's a deck people are going to have to think about for sure. Got Future Iron Hands here. Playing the 1 copy of Iron Leaves and a couple Grass Energy to be able to deal with Charizards a little bit easier. I put Future Hands in Tier 2. I'm going to count this as Future Hands because it's more of a Future Hands deck than it is like a Future Box deck per se. Sure, you got like Tech in there with the Iron Leaves, but you're still playing like 4 Electro Generators, heavy 12 energy, lightning energy, and then you're trying to just like Iron Hands, amp, and arm press and stuff your way to victory. I'm going to put this in tier 2. If you hit Lugias and Lost Box decks all day long, you're going to do great. The moment you hit like something like Chen Pao or, you know, Control or a Lost Box deck, it gets really awkward really fast. So for those reasons, I got to keep it in tier 2 here. Keep going down. We got our first Asprotha deck played by the same person. Braden has been playing this deck for the last 3 events, 26th, 43rd, and 25th. It's a really good deck, and I think it's really underrated. I put it at the top of tier 2. I'm going to have to keep it at the top of tier 2, however, because the deck sometimes does have some consistency issues, I have realized. I had played one game where it was really difficult for me to get a second Xatu set up, no matter how many cards I was drawing. Even I couldn't find Ultra Balls. I couldn't find my way to get into a Capturing Aroma. That also could just be chalked up to just bad draws and just unlucky, but I think this deck is incredibly underrated, and I think it takes a lot of great matchups. I love the 3-2-1-1 line with Banette and then the Puppet offering Banette as well. I think Pokemon League Headquarters is a great just stadium to have in this deck. Attacks used by basic Pokemon in play cost 1 more, so you can really force your opponent to have to really consider where they're placing their energies. But I'm going to have to keep it at the top of tier 2 here. Got some more Dialga decks. Basically something very similar. 4 Iono, 3 Research. This one's playing like an Irida to be able to search their deck out for that Radiant Greninja and then be able to find an item on top of that. I think is a great idea as well. Keep going. Got more Pidgeot Control. Azul played All Out Blitzel's Wigglytuff list. That was really cool. We got Raging Bolt Sandy Shocks. Now, Raging Bolt Sandy Shocks, I put this in the bottom of tier 2.5, and I'm going to count Raging Bolt decks kind of as a whole. And what I mean by that is there was a Palkia deck that was there. There was a Lost Box Raging Bolt deck. There's tons of Raging Bolt variants. There's like Bolt Guardy, Bolt Palkia, Lost Zone Bolt, and then Raging Bolt with Sandy Shocks. I'm going to put this at the bottom of tier 2. That's all the better I can do with it. I personally like the Lost Box Raging Bolt variant more than any other variant, but I think this deck can do a lot of cool things. You have a backup attacker in Sandy Shocks to be able to hit Arceus decks for weakness. You have the Raikou you're able to attack with as well. You got Slitherwing, so you can mill your opponent if you get to that point in the game as well, which I think is really cool. But I cannot put it any higher than tier 2. That's kind of all the Raging Bolt variants I'm going to put at the bottom of tier 2 here. We got our first Arc Vulpix deck. Now, on paper, Arc Vulpix looks like it takes a great Charizard matchup. However, I remember sitting, I can't remember what round it was, but I remember like a seat next to me or a seat on the other side. I look down and I see Charizard versus Arc Vulpix, and the Charizard opponent 2-0, a Charizard player 2-0'd their Vulpix opponent. And on paper, it looks like Vulpix to have a great time with their Charizard, and it just doesn't. I put Arc Vulpix in tier 2. I gotta put this thing in like tier 2.5. I think it's okay. I think it has okay matchups. But the problem with Arc Vulpix is you better hope you hit decks that have an ability that you can kind of just Vulpix them out of the game with Snow Mirage, because if you don't, it feels really, really bad. It's almost like a worse hand control Arceus variant in my opinion. So I gotta put it at in tier 2.5 here. We got Roaring Moon. Now this one not playing the Dunsparce variant, so 4 Roaring Moon, 4 Fluttermane, 3 Roaring Moon EX here. I put this deck in tier 2. I still think that's true with or without the Dunsparce. I think Roaring Moon, the Dunsparce, or Roaring Moon without the Dunsparce is still a tier 2 deck. I think it's a decent deck, and I think it takes a lot of decent matchups. But I'm going to have to bring it a little bit down in tier 2 because Mist Energies in the format and Roaring Moon EX kind of gets countered by that pretty hard in my opinion. We got Ancient Box here with like Koraidon and Great Tusk and Cobalion be able to deal with Charizards a little bit more. The problem with Ancient Box is even with Cobalion, it still loses the Charizard. Especially if you start with Cobalion in the active spot, you kind of have to commit to like put 2 energies onto it or like penny and pick it up and like waste your entire penny for it, which feels really bad. So I'm going to put Ancient Box here right next to Roaring Moon with or without the Dunsparce or Duns and Dragons, because at least Roaring Moon EX and like Baby Roaring Moon can at least beat Charizard. Ancient Box just doesn't beat Charizard. Even with Cobalion, it's really hard to still beat Charizard. So I got to put Ancient Box down there in tier 2. I had it in tier 1.5, which still feels eh. We got another Lugia deck to look at here. This one playing Maximum, but which I think is really cool. Playing Eerie in the deck. I'm not a big fan of Arven in here, but I love the 17 energies. This is exactly the split of energy I played in my Lugia list. I think Lugia is once again a great deck. I think it's very linear in what it's trying to do. It takes a lot of cool matchups, especially having a chance into Zard feels really nice. For Lugia V, I was playing 3 of mine. I had Lugia in tier 1.5. I think I still have to leave it in tier 2.5, even looking at all these Lugia lists together. We got another Lugia list here. Got another one here. This one very much playing Techno Radar, which I thought was really interesting for the Iron Bundle. But I think that is mostly also because you can Techno Radar and then discard another card from your hand, so you can discard a Chops to be able to find the Iron Bundle, Hyper Blower, pull up something, take a KO or whatever. I think is really cool. So a lot of very different ways to play the deck, which I thought was very interesting. We got a different Pidgeot control, not the Wigglytuff here, but this one playing like the Bouffalante, playing the Sandshrew in here. Once again, I got to keep this in tier 1 with or without Wigglytuff. It's still such a great deck. We got Future Box. This one playing like Iron Boulder, Iron Bundle, playing like the Iron Leaves, Iron Hands, and Iron Crown. Kind of more of a toolboxy type deck. I put this in tier 2.5. I'm going to stick it right next to Future Hands. I think Future Hands is still a better deck, but I think Future Box is a good deck nonetheless. I think they're kind of just like next to each other. It's going to be a deck that people are going to play. If you hit decent matchups, you can make day 2 with it for sure. You know, if Future Hands sees 2 Lugia decks and a couple Lost Box, it's going to do great. You know, if Future Box sees a couple Zards, they're probably going to have a great time. But the moment Future Hands runs into like, if Future Hands runs into like Dialga, it probably gets really awkward really fast because they're able to just like punch with Metal Blast for really big and stuff like that. I think it can be kind of tough. So, Future Box down there, another Sprotha deck here, another Lugia variant. This one kind of the more cookie cutter list. The only thing that's a little bit different is they cut a energy going from 17 to 16 for the Mew EX, which I think is very interesting. But that's very similar to the list I had played. 2 Indianapolis, another Lost Tina deck here, another Chimpao, bunch of more Zards, another Dialga, a couple more Arceus variant. This one is another Arcane control here. We got Roaring Moon, the Dunsparce, so 4 Roaring Moon, 2 Roaring Moon EX with the Dunsparce for the Runaway Draw engine here. Once again, still tier 2, I feel. We got another Arceus deck here. We got more Dialga, more Ancient Box. We got Snorlax Stall, however, just straight up Stall with the block method, the Chi-Yu, the Pidgeot to be able to Vanishing Wings so you don't end up milling yourself. We got, you know, Crushing Hammers in the deck. We got Erica's Invitation. So really trying to just punish your opponent for having just like things on the bench they don't want on there. It's still in tier 2. I got to keep it at tier 2. It might be a little bit above Goldengo, a little bit below. I'm going to put it kind of like next to the Future Box variants here, actually. I think Snorlax Stall is a great deck, but the problem is just like Pidgeot control is just a deck that you can play instead. Going through the rest of the deck here, we got some more Lugia. This one also I thought was really interesting when I was looking through it. We got Morty's Conviction, which we've already seen Morty's Conviction played before in Lugia, but a lot of these lists are playing Lost Vacuum. Almost every Lugia deck we've looked at is playing Lost Vacuum. I think Lost Vacuum is a almost auto-include at Lugia at this point to be able to just remove your own Collapsing if you need to. Be able to remove... It gives you at least a fighting chance into 2 decks specifically. Charizard with Hero's Cape, that's a really tough deck for Lugia to overcome because you already have to commit 5 energies to Cincino to KO a Charizard at 330. And then putting Hero's Cape on it, getting it to 430 is really difficult. You have to commit even more energies to that. So Lost Vacuum helping you in that matchup. And Future Hands or Future Box. It also helps you in that matchup a lot as well. So Lost Vacuum almost an auto-include. I think Buddy Buddy Poffin is a card you don't need to play in this deck. I understand you want to get your Mincinos or whatever, but you almost don't need it. I feel like you just kind of cut this for like an extra, like you just cut this for research and just kind of draw through your deck more. I feel like it's a little bit better. Got some more Lost Tina. We got some more Charizard here, another Lugia. We got Palkia Raging Bolt. Now, once again, this is still going to stay in tier 2, but I at least want to look at this deck here. We got 2 Sandy Shocks, 2 Raging Bolt, the 2/2 line of Palkia V and V-Star. So, basically, just kind of copy-paste the Palkia deck originally, like the old Palkia V-Star deck with, you know, Ice Rider, Calyrex, and all that stuff, and just kind of swap it out for the Raging Bolts. I don't have anywhere to put this, but I'm going to count it as the Raging Bolt down here. Once again, tier 2 at best. We got 5 Charizard decks, basically all the same lists, all playing towards Zard. I don't think there was like one person there that made day 2 that was playing without Bidoof and Barrel. We got another Raging Bolt Sandy Shocks here. Once again, still tier 2. Nothing's going to change there. Future Hand's got another Pidgeot Control. This one playing the Wigglytuff variant as well. So Wigglytuff really showing up that it's got a thing going for it. Now, Cloth Cramorant. This is a deck that I looked at and I was like, what is going on here? So what this deck is trying to do is you're playing the Brute Bonnet with its Toxic Powder ability. Once during your turn, this Pokemon has an Ancient Booster Energy Capsule on it. You may make both active Pokemon poison. So, play 4 capsules, Brute Bonnet, make everything poison. You're playing Chorus, so you can get the 4 cards in your Lost Zone, so you can attack with Cramorant really early on, and then also have Cloth as well with the Unhinged Scissors attack, 30+. If this Pokemon is affected by a special condition, this attack does 160 more damage. So, being able to just have a bunch of one-prizers and forcing your opponent to have to take multiple KOs on Cramorants and Cloths and Raiden, Hisui, and Sneasler, also making it difficult for the Poison Checkup, because during Pokemon Checkup, put 2 more damage counters on your opponent's poisoned Pokemon. So this one not playing like the Spicy Season Curry. I actually think that card might have rotated the Curry card. I'm not too sure, though. But still cool to see like Call-Off kind of being a relevant thing. If I were to put this deck somewhere, I'd just kind of put it in like Rogue or maybe tier 2.5. It's kind of a one-off deck. This was the only one that made day 2, but it's still really goofy and cool to see, and I kind of want to pop it in the TCG Live and give it a go. Got our first Goldango list here. We got the Vroom and Revavroom with the Rumbling Engine. You must discard an energy card from your hand in order to use this ability. Once during your turn, you may draw until you have 6 cards in your hand. I think this is a pretty cool include because you're not using it to attack by any means. You're just using it to draw cards, which I think is really cool because you have more of a draw engine with Goldango EX coin bonus, Revavroom, and then Radiant Greninja as well. So Silene and Cypher Mania's code breaking become a lot more, I guess, favored in this deck because you're able to just like Cypher Mania's code breaking, only play 1 copy of it, Revavroom into it, draw more cards or concealed cards into that or whatever, which I think is really cool because now you can just go, okay, Revavroom, discard it, draw until you have 6, coin bonus, however many times you can do it, and then you can also just conceal cards as well on top of that, which I think is great. So I put Goldango in tier 2. I still think that's true. I think it's a little bit above Snorlax Stall, though, just below the Future Box and Future Hands deck. I think Goldango is a deck that people are still going to play. My friend Blake actually played it to Indianapolis and had a pretty decent record with it as well. We finished around the same place at Indianapolis. Another Goldango deck, couple more Arctinas here. Another Dialga Arctina. We got Lugia here as well. We got another Lost Box, couple more Lost Tinas. Pretty much Lost Tina is going to look the same as it always has been. I'm just trying to see, not another Tordzard here. A couple more. Yep, another Tordzard. We got another Lugia deck by Jake Abrams from Team Junction up in Pittsburgh. Or down in Pittsburgh for me, actually. This is literally almost the exact 60 I played. I played a 3-3 line of Lugia and V and V-Star. I played a 4-3 line of this. 4 Chops, 1 Snorlax, 1 Luminia. I played 17 Energy. The only thing different is I played 3 Boss and no Nest Ball. If you just change the Nest Ball to a Boss and then cut a Serena for a third Great Ball, that was my Lugia list. So really cool to see very similar lists to what I played popping up here. Now Shane Kelly actually lives incredibly close to me, and he had played a very interesting Lugia list. I actually got to take a peek at his list before Indianapolis, and I thought it was really cool here. So to kind of break down the list here, we got 19 Pokemons. We're playing the 4-3 line, 4 Archeops, 3-3 Lugia V and V-Star. We got 16 Energies, of course. This one not playing the Therapeutic because we're not playing Snorlax, so no need to play Therapeutic in the deck, of course. And then we got 2 Research, 3 Iono, 2 Cypher Maniacs Code Breaking. Pair this with 2 Pokestop. You're able to go Cypher Maniacs Code Breaking, Pokestop, mill 2 Chops. Hopefully the third card isn't something you don't really need. And then you have things like Prime Catcher in the deck, Counter Catcher to be able to kind of come back from behind a little bit more, Turo Scenario to be able to pick up your Luminion if you need to as well, because we're not playing Collapse Stadium in this deck, we're playing Pokestop in the deck. So I thought this was a really cool way to play Lugia. So really awesome to see day 2 here by Shane. So really cool. Wish I would have had a chance to talk to him. I didn't end up getting to see him. But still really cool to see that Lugia list there. A couple more Goldengos, another Future Hands. We got more Gardevoir here, another Esprotha deck popping in. Very similar to the other Esprotha lists as well. Another Lugia list here. This one also a little bit different, playing like Vitality Band in the list, which I thought was very interesting. I think Vitality Band actually is a really cool card, especially because it helps you in the Future Hands matchup, because Lugia V-Star hits for 220. So if you put 4 energies onto it, none of them double turbos, you're hitting 220, you're 10 short on Iron Hands. Vitality Band gets you to 230, so you're KOing Iron Hands, which feels really good. Morty's Conviction, we've already seen that as well in the Lugia lists. Couple more Charizards. Arctina, got tons of more Lost Tina here. We got just a straight up Charizard. This one playing just straight up Bibzard, so that's really cool. I put Bibzard in Rogue/Bad, but just straight Bibzard here. No Pidgeot, just kind of running it with Barrel only. I'm going to put this in tier 2.5. We're going to put it at the top of tier 2.5. I can't go any higher than that. I think Bibzard, just play towards Zard, it's just better. Got another Pidgeot Control here, playing the Wigglytuff variant. So a lot of people rocking All Out Blitzel's Wigglytuff Control deck. Another Arceus deck. I believe this is hand control. It's not actually hand control. It's pretty cool. So we got the Magma Basin, being able to put Fire Energies on Arceus. We got the Tekken for the 1/1 line of Vulpix here. And then, of course, we got Heavy Judge, Heavy Iono, stuff like that. So that's pretty cool. Not quite an Arc Armarouge deck, but getting a little closer. Got one Arc Armarouge deck here. Very similar to what we've been seeing be played with the Radiant Heatran, the Gouging Fire. I like Entei V over Gouging Fire. Personally, I just think it's a little bit, not more consistent, but at least better. Blaze Blitz is a pretty cool attack. 3 energy, 260. This Pokemon can't use Blaze Blitz until it leaves the active spot, but you're capped at 260, which feels kind of bad. You can put Maximum Bullet on it, but Maximum Bullet's only going to make it do 50 more, so you're getting to 310. So you're KOing with things like Gardevoir, which is kind of nice, but I just feel like Entei V is a little bit more a comfort card. Gouging Fire seems a little bit more like specific against certain matchups as opposed to Entei, where it just feels good into all of the decks. I put Arc Armarouge in tier 1.5. I got to put this in like the bottom of tier 2. It's not a terrible deck. It's not a great deck. I just think it's not the best Arc variant you can be playing. I think Arctina's kind of proved that it's the best Arceus variant out there. But still really cool to see Arc Armarouge do pretty well. I got a second Arc Armarouge deck here. This one also looking very similar to the other list as well. So pretty cool to see that here. Another Arceus variant. And then we got a Lost Box deck variant down here. Tons of Future Hands actually made it into day 2. Let's take a look here, and we'll scroll back to the top. And I want to go statistics. So 65 Charizard decks, 26% of the meta for day 2. We're Charizard, 30 Chin-Pao, 26 different Arceus variants. We got 18 Lost Box, 17 Guardies, set 14 Lugias and Giratina, 13 Dialga, 11 Future, 9 Pidgeot Control, 9 Ancient Box. We got 6 Roaring Moon to Dunsparce, 4 Goldango, 3 Esprotha, 3 Raging Bolt, 1 Palkia, but this was like Palkia Raging Bolt, so I kind of just put this as 4. 1 Snorlax Doll, and this is not Cloth Electrode. There's no Electrode here. So Cloth, Lost Box, just 1. Still pretty cool as well. So really awesome to see all these different decks. Really happy to see Charizard not win. Kind of crazy to see Dialga win though. So yeah, it just kind of is what it is. So to kind of recap all this here, tier 1 we got like towards Zard, Chien-Pao, Control, Pidgeot, Lost Tina 1.5, Lost Toolbox, Lugia, Arctina, Dialga, and Gardevoir all in tier 1.5. Tier 2 we got Esprotha, Arc, Hand Control, both Future variants, Goldango, Snorlax Stall. Lost Sablezard is a deck that didn't make day 2 at all, so we're going to talk about this real quick here because there was no Great Tusk and there was no Miraidon or Gouging Fire and Banette. Lost Sablezard is a tier 2.5 deck, so I don't have to put that down here. Did not perform very well. I'm going to put Great Tusk Mill in the Rogue/Bad along with Miraidon. Arc Gudra also going to have to be Rogue/Bad. They just didn't make day 2, and these decks aren't fantastic. I will put this like this. So Banette is kind of back here. This is how I would label the Rogue/Bad. For the rest of Tier 2, though, we got both Ancient variants, Raging Bolt variants, Arc Armor Rouge. Tier 2.5, we got Bibzard, Arc Vulpix, Lost Sablezard. The reason Lost Sablezard, even though it didn't make Day 2, I think Lost Sablezard is a really good deck. It takes a lot of decent matchups into things, and really putting your opponent in a position where they have to take multiple KOs is also really good. Rogue Slash Bad, Arc Gudra, just not a great deck. Just play different Arceus variant. Great Tusk Mill. If you want to play like a Mill or a control type strategy, just play Pidgeot Control, or even Snorlax Stall. Miraidon is kind of dead. I know Sneaker Talk played it to Indianapolis and had a pretty decent record with it. I think he won like 5-2-2 or 5-1-2 or 5-1-3 or something like that. Banette Control, also Rogue Slash Bad, and Gouging Fire as its own deck is also really bad. So these are going to be the kind of finished after Indianapolis. This is where I would put things kind of going forward. So yeah, if we'll jump right in to that outro. Alrighty, that's going to do it for today's video. Let me know down in the comments below if you guys went to Indianapolis, and if you did, what deck did you play? And if you didn't end up going to Indianapolis, what deck would you have played had you gone to Indianapolis? If you guys enjoying the content I've been making stuff for here on the channel, don't forget to leave a like, smash the subscribe button. I really would appreciate it. And I'll see you all in the next one. Peace!